Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Dialogue with the Youth. So, as always, with your presenter, Ebrima Scattred Janneh. Greetings to you wherever you are. A Juma Mubarak, Good Friday to you. Hopefully, wherever you are having a good Friday and enjoying yourself. Today is another milestone in Gunjur Online, and we are here to discuss issues as always that matters to inspire and to give back to our communities. But today's story is a special story. This is a story of a man who is super brave. It's not about beating your chest. It's not about shouting and all those things. But brevity to be brave in my definition here is to come and go over the taboos of the societies. This world is full of challenges. All over the place is littered with challenges. How we use challenges, to turn it into something positive. That tells how brave somebody is, and in this case, that's what we have today. When you have challenges, you can turn those challenges into success, and you can build a legacy, a lasting legacy for that in terms of what you went through, how you handle it. And Gunjur Online is really, really, really honored today to have a special brother who is known from the family trees, is a known name in the Gambia, but he is present, in social medias, his writings, his advices, is all over the place. And we are honored and we are proud to have, our own brother, Yusupha Jow, here with us on Gunjur Online. And brother Yusuf, thank you so much for dignifying Gunjur Online with your presence here. We are honored, and honored and honored and honored. But on top of that, to see you to come and discuss things that most Gambians, or most people in the African diaspora and the African continent don't come out and discuss that much, and so for that being the case, our hearts are on the floor for you, and we are on our knees for your presence here. Thank you so much, and greetings and welcome back to our show, Dialogue with the Youth, so normally and always is on Gunjur Online. Welcome to Gunjur Online, Dialogue with the Youth, so bro.
Thank you, Ebrima. I'm very honored to be here, honored to contribute to the worthwhile cause that Gunjur Online is about, which is giving back to the community, sensitizing people about things. So thank you for the kind words and the warm welcome.
Thank you, brother. Gunjur Online, that's what we do. We are a community-based, platform, wherever we see issues, it's named Gunjur Online because it's originated from there. But things like environmental issues, community issues, anything that's going to help Gambians and Gambian people in the country to go forward, and we can educate ourselves, we can learn through each other, and in your case, that's where it fits, and it fits perfectly. Brother Hughes, in November you came out online, about issues around cancer, and you were ringing a bell and all those things. We didn't know you were sick, you had cancer before, because most Gambians, normally when they have these diseases, they hide on their own comfort zone. Nobody knows what goes, they don't even want anybody to know, especially their fellow Gambian brothers and sisters. And you give warnings, and I think the whole aim is to educate Gambians about prostate cancer. Why did you decide to come and share your experience with us, and the world, in a larger perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Ebrima. That's a great question. And just before I get into that, I just wanted to introduce myself a bit. So, Yusupha Jow, Gambian. I was born in Banjul to parents, Charles Jow, who is late. My dad passed away in '94, and Satang Jow. Satang Jow is someone who is well known as a former principal and teacher at Gambia High School. So just honored to be here. And so to your question, it was a tough journey, but one thing I realized is that we tend to have a lot of taboo around illness. Oftentimes, what happens is we have uncles, we have parents, family members, friends that have passed away through disease, and oftentimes we don't know why they passed away. We just hear they got sick. Oftentimes the sickness is, kind of, hidden, and, there's not a lot of discussion about what's wrong. All we hear is, oh, they're getting better. That's what we hear. And so from my journey through prostate cancer, what I realized is it's extremely important to understand your family history when it comes to illnesses. Because oftentimes these illnesses are actually genetic, associated with a long line of illness in the family. So look at things like breast cancer, where you might have families where multiple people have passed away and have been afflicted because of breast cancer. And we don't know, but if we know that history, given the advances in modern medicine, what happens is then we can go ahead and we can get tested early. We can get treated early. And what we know is that the earlier you're treated, the better your chances of surviving and recovering well are, right? So, in the case of prostate cancer, there have been so many advances made. It's remarkable. It's actually one of the most understood cancers. And there's a joke that it's understood so well because it affects men. But the truth is that with the advances that have been made in the cancer, the more aware we are about it, the more understanding we have about it, the easier it becomes to get treated early, to have early detection, either through understanding the symptoms or getting the tests that you need, the regular tests. And we can talk about that later. And so, when you have those type of tests and, you have that early understanding, that early detection, then you have a chance of surviving. So the reason I'm out here is to sensitize people and make them understand that, look, this is a disease that is understood. The treatments are out there for it. The issue is, at least for our community, is to be educated about it. We need to go out and we need to come out of our taboos. We need to come out of our shells and actually talk about what we've experienced. Because the more people understand about it, the likelier it is that they'll get, early treatment. If they ever get afflicted, they'll go out and get tested and will improve their chances of survival. So if by coming out, I can help Gambians, even if I can help a few, improve their chances of survival, I would consider it a success, right? And as you pointed out early, it's sometimes through challenges, we also, should be able to turn those challenges around into something positive, right? And my whole thing is, look, I've had this. I want to turn it around. I want to share what I've learned, and I want to be a contributor to making sure that there are better outcomes for Gambians when it comes to cancer, prostate cancer specifically.
Thank you so much, brother. And as always, this is a landmark issue for us in the Gambia. I hope we can change direction in terms of the taboos that we have. To overcome these taboos. To know that the cure is there, the advancement in medicine, in technology is there now. It's only for us to come out, and breath a little bit braver. It's not, sometimes, our definition of brevity, to be brave is, we come out and show our masculinities or feminities and all those things and shouting and all those things. But the things that we think they are small, to come out when you have disease and you can save life. Looking at you is inspiring today. Anybody who is going to watch this program or watching it live will know, there is life after diseases and all those things. It should not be terminal, most of the time. How you come out, sometimes even if we will be terminal, but your experience can inspire somebody. And we can see that all over in the West, people will come out and discuss issues and do things and inspired and raise money for good causes and all those things. So that culture, for you to come out, for the first time since I've been in the media, to show a Gambian that goes through that, to come out is inspiring. And I hope many will follow, so that we can create awareness around these diseases. This is what the diseases want. They want us to be quiet, so that they can do the maximum impact that they do, they are good at. But once we start communicating, they are scared of it. They are afraid of it. So thank you so much. But before we go, you talk about, your mom, and I think, your dad, Charles, we know him, but the more household name is your mom, even though since we were younger, when she was, teaching, and when, but, we have brothers and cousins and all those things who went through her, and the impact. And we know the impact of mothers, especially at the Gambia context, especially before they stay with us most of the time. That's right. We learn most of our foundation skills, and our university, they are the first universities. So, because, it takes a lot of development for somebody to have cancer at anywhere in the world, to have the confidence to come out, the foundation has to be there. Do you have any inspiration from her in terms of, preparing you, giving you the foundation, giving you the confidence to come out? Because these things are skills that you don't learn by chance. It just comes, you have to go through it. Tell us about your mom and the impact he has on you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. I give all credit to my mom, because, she came from a background, just to give you a brief background, her family are Soninke. So they actually emigrated from a place called Kaidi in Mauritania in the early 1900s. My great-grandfather, his name was Usman Scattred Janneh, came in and decided to make a life for himself in Gambia. And, he was an immigrant. And the place that his home on Hagan Street in Gambia became a place for where immigrants would come in. This was pre-independence. So immigrants would come in from what was called the protectorate at the time. And Janneh Kunda was one of the places that they would stay. And my mother grew up in that kind of environment. She grew up in an environment where everyone was accepted, regardless of where they came from in the country. So it was the place where, in fact, the late Sadauda Jawara, in his book Kairaba, talks about his experience at Janneh Kunda and how his father actually used to come and stay at Janneh Kunda. So my mom actually grew up in that kind of environment. So I was born watching her always give back. always go above and beyond to help not only neighbors, but to help students at Gambia High School. You talked about it a little bit, and just be a very helpful person who was always very altruistic, very giving, very supportive. So that is the environment I grew up in, and so my whole in the back of my mind, one of the things that I always focused on was trying to give back to society. Because I consider myself very fortunate. I consider myself, by Gambian standards, to have had a lot. And watching my mother being such, an inspiration in terms of, helping others, also inspired me, maybe even subliminally, to want to give back, right? So I give all credit to her, and I have, this concept that it's important that wherever we are, and whoever we interact with, that we leave making that interaction or that place better, right? So it is along those lines that I'm actually coming out and talking about this, because I feel as if through my experiences, I can actually make life better for many Gambians, right? And others, right, who are interested in learning about my journey. So all credit to my mom. I can't thank her enough for the inspiration and the things that she taught me.
Yeah, we are grateful, and she is a hero, a heroine in the Gambia. Myriad of students, some of the intellectual giants that we have today in the market were her students, and our own Lamin Jedabo is there, Gunjur, but as you said, my grandfather was a migrant also from Sierra Leone, and he settled in Banjul before he scattered all over the country. So the Scattreds were before settling in Gunjur, were in Banjul, Pa Ane Scattred Janneh.
Yes.
So yeah, but so that's why it's a small country, and we all start from somewhere. We all are all interlinked. But what is important here, as a community, as a people, we need to give back to people, and as you said, we are all lucky in our own right. So what we can do more is to do our best. That's why the owner of Gunjur Online, Lamin Jammeh, just erect this, to project the voice of, to address community issues free of charge, and the burden is on our shoulders, just to come here and discuss issues, So, brother, based on your experience, how can you explain to us what prostate cancer is at the layman level, at your own experience? What is prostate cancer, if somebody asks?
Yeah, so the prostate is, is an interesting, part of the body. It has a very interesting function. In fact, it's really small. It's the size of a walnut, right? So really small, and it is located in the part of the body where it is between um, your penis and your rectum, and it's actually wrapped around your urethra, and the urethra is what carries urine out of your body, right? And it plays a really important part in that it actually contributes to the production of semen, right? So that is what the prostate is. So it's located in a very sensitive part of your body and plays a very important role in reproduction. So basically, when you have cancer cells in your prostate, or a tumor in your prostate, then that is what is considered prostate cancer.
Yeah, that's important for people to know, and mostly it is men that have prostate cancer. Is mostly it's a men is a
Yes.
It's a main disease that men have prostate cancer. So we hope we can elaborate this more so that people can be aware, about. But we will discuss the signs and symptoms and brother. we are aware that prostate cancer typically sometimes have no symptoms. The early signings, you don't have any symptom. Did you experience any symptom that prompted you, like you say, something is going wrong? I don't know what this is. Let me just go to a doctor and see what this thing is. Do you have any symptoms? Or how did you come to know this is a prostate cancer for you?
Yeah, you're right.
And of course, the symptoms also, you can let us know if you have things.
There are times when there are absolutely no symptoms, which is why it's important to get tested. But I'm sure we'll dedicate some time to talking about testing. So the symptoms, are varied. Mine actually were very different from kind of the usual symptoms. And based on my conversations with other people who've had prostate cancer, the symptoms seem to vary. So the symptoms usually are a weaker urine stream. So you might notice that, when you're actually peeing, your stream starts to weaken. You might see some changes there. You might also see changes in your sexual performance or your ability to actually maintain an erection. Now, I must say that those symptoms can be very subtle. So you really have to pay attention and pay attention. Like if all of a sudden, you're able to maintain an erection, for 15, 20 minutes, and all of a sudden it's 5, and it's a drastic change. It's something that you want to pay attention to. But oftentimes what happens is, because some of these symptoms are so subtle, people tend to ignore them, right? I've also heard of blood in the urine. So that also happens. In my case, I didn't have any lasting symptoms initially. Occasionally, I would have a sharp pain in my anal area, and that happened maybe a couple of years ago. But it was nothing that was persistent, so I didn't really pay attention to it. I should have at the time, but I didn't. I think for me, the big symptoms were, I would say, about last year. I would say all of a sudden. When did this happen? I think it happened around March of last year. I noticed some discomfort in my pelvic area, my scrotum on my pelvic area, where I felt like there was an itch, and there were occasionally some pains. And it became the kind of pain and discomfort that just didn't go away. It basically persisted. And so what ended up happening is I went to the doctor and I said, look, I'm going through this situation where I have this discomfort in my pelvic area, in my penis, in my scrotum, in my anal area. It feels really uncomfortable. I don't know what's going on. And initially he thought it was an infection. So he gave me antibiotics. And this was around, I would say, March of last year. I revisited him. So the symptoms didn't quite go away. I went back in, I want to say July, August timeframe, asked him again, told him that the symptoms persisted despite the antibiotics. He gave me more antibiotics. And this continued through December. I was in Gambia, came back, and that's when I had a biopsy and it was detected. So I guess in summary, what I will say is the symptoms are varied. It could be your urine stream, it could be your sexual performance, it could be blood in the urine. But then you have sharper, more, I guess, more acute symptoms too, around how you're feeling, the pain, the itching, and that might be completely separate. So you might not actually experience any of the symptoms that I just talked about around the urine stream and sexual dysfunction and so on, but you might experience some pain around your pelvic area too, or some discomfort that is difficult to explain, right? So the symptoms are varied, but I think we have enough literature, enough research around the symptoms where, at least we should have enough information to be educated about them.
That's true, brothers and sisters, wherever you are. We have Mr. Joe here with us to explain his journey, his experience with prostate cancer. As a culture, Gambians don't normally come out to talk about any illness, any sickness, more of a cancer. So anytime they have it, nobody, parents, relatives, friends, nobody just want to talk about this. So all credit to Mr. Joe for his for his Yusupha, daring in a good way, to come out, educate us, about so that we can reflect, about our body, because life, we are healthy today, we are not healthy tomorrow, but if we have the knowledge, if we have the experience, if we have the know-how, how these things are. If we act early, we can save life, because that's what Queen Soma is saying here. He said, I took care of elderly gentleman who was diagnosed with prostate, who almost made it to 100 years. He lived for over 25 years with advanced stage of prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is not a death sentence. A man can live for decades with it as long as he has the proper nutrition, resources, sleeps, and all those things. But the best thing is just go and check yourself. Go, and if you have, and men generally, don't want to go to hospital. They don't want to go and see doctors. They are very, very reluctant wherever you are. When you see different signs that you don't understand below there, when you see, nighttime, you frequently wake up, you couldn't sleep all the time, waking up and going for urine and all those things. You go and you urinated already, and you come back, you feel that something is hanging there again. All these things, the erectile dysfunctions, just go and check yourself and see. Brother, what are some of the tests that are available for prostate cancer, and why do you think men tend to avoid being tested? And what is your advice for men, especially Gambian men, to go and test themselves? And of course, we can educate our women. If you see some of the things, that some of the changes that you didn't experience, in your relationship, your marital relationship, you've been together for 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, suddenly you see some changes that you don't understand. You can give courage also to your man, to your, because his father, kids, or to your husband, to your boyfriend, and challenge him so that he will have the courage gathered, and go and test himself, and say, Mariam Juara, sorry, says, thanks for this awareness. Very, very educative. Brother, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as a culture, and men in general, don't like to get tested, don't like to go to the hospital. And I'm not exactly sure why that is the case. I suspect maybe, just getting bad news, about, your medical situation might be one reason why folks don't get tested as much. But, we should definitely try to promote not only testing for prostate cancer, that is extremely important, but testing across the board, right? Because, if we get diagnosed with something, early, it's likely that, it will be, the chances of getting a cure are much higher, right? So I think this is something that as Gambians, we should be evangelizing, and this should be evangelized from the top, right? From, the Ministry of Health. We should be having campaigns that promote early testing, right? Early testing across the board, whether it's prostate cancer, whether it's diabetes, these are all things that we have tests for nowadays, and there are medicines for them, right? So yes, you're right, Mr. Janneh, in that we don't get tested as much as we should, and that we should try to reverse that trend, right? So for prostate cancer, there are two main tests that you can get. One of them is called the digital rectal exam. Basically, what happens is you go into your doctor for your annual test, biannual test, and what they'll do is they'll actually insert their finger up your rectum to basically feel around to see where the prostate is, and then see if there's any hardening or any type of irregularities within the prostate that indicates that there might be a problem. So that's one way of testing it. And the other way is what they call a prostate-specific antigen test. It's called a PSA test. And that is actually detected through the blood. And the key thing to understand about the PSA test is that there's specific thresholds that indicate that something is very wrong. So based on the information that I have and the research that I've done, Western doctors say that 4 is the threshold, 4 or higher is the threshold at which you should go and seek further testing, right? 4 and higher indicates that something is wrong because, usually they're expecting something under 4, right? So if it's under 4, what they're saying is you're okay. If it's over 4, that could be problematic, right? So then you have to go out and get further testing. Now, one interesting thing that I've read actually is that for Black men, and this is really important, the threshold is 3. So for Black men, if the threshold is, 3 or higher, you should go get tested. You should go get further tested, right? Biopsy and so on. So those are extremely important tests. There's actually a debate, or there has been a debate in the past about whether the PSA or the digital rectal exam is more accurate, right? But for me, based on my experience, I actually had 3 digital rectal exams, and the doctor was unable to find anything. It was the PSA test that actually showed that there was something wrong. So my PSA test was 4.4. So my recommendation, based on my experience, is let's do the PSA test as opposed to the digital rectal exam, right? So those are the tests. Now there's an additional test, and we can talk about kind of like some of the modern scientific equipment that's available there that is even more precise when it comes to testing. So there's something out there called a PET scan, or it's called a PSMA machine. And basically what that does is after you have a biopsy, so the next phase after the PSA or the digital rectal exam, if there's a suspicion that you have prostate cancer, what might happen next is you might have an MRI. So that's the magnetic resonance imaging, right? They'll see if there's anything going on there with that. But the advanced equipment that is really groundbreaking, and I don't think we have it in Gambia, but we should, is called a PET scan machine. And it's very advanced. What happens is you're injected with radioactive material. And then, you're made to wait for a little bit, and then you're put in this very advanced PET scan machine. And then that scans your entire body to determine where the prostate cancer cells are. So that will find prostate cancer in the actual prostate, but it also has the ability to detect if it has spread anywhere else in your body, right? So that is also really, really advanced science there. And I believe it is a piece of equipment that, we should definitely have in Gambia. People should be trained to use it because it is just such an important piece of machinery when it comes to detecting the spread of prostate cancer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jow, and definitely, I went for holidays in the Gambia and got sick, and I spent about nearly a month or 2 there. There was only MRI then, back in 2017, and they couldn't detect, the blood cancer that I had, the lymphoma. No, they didn't know. Nobody seems to know. We went through all the tests and all those, and for them it was food poisoning. So yes, when I came here, after 2 weeks, and I got so sick, and through you mentioned the PET scan, which and all the biopsies, those are familiar things, and not only you will discover your issues about your prostate and all those things, but I had it sleeping TV in my adrenal gland, and that was sleeping there, nobody knew, so PET scan discovered that, unearthed it, you know, and because they realize an inflammation, they don't know where it was. They thought the cancer was spreading, but they end up knowing it's a sleeping TB, and had to go through operation and go through the process of curing TB. So these things are so important. You know, I think Gambia should have, you know, we should create a lot of awareness around cancer. There's a lot of cancer now in the Gambia, and almost 99.9% of Gambian cancers are terminal. You know, the least we can do is to come out and go to all these online radios and TVs and talk about cancer continuously, so that people can know, because most of the people is too late. You know, cervical cancer, breast cancer, they're all over there, but people don't know what they are. You know, and before they go to hospital, it's too late, you know, because of a lack of awareness. So the least we can do. My uncle, Babukar Boy Jame, says it is very educative program. Can you ask him, is the symptom of prostate cancer and enlarged prostate the same? You know, Mr. Joe, you're not a doctor, but at least, you know, some of these questions will go. Just, if you know them, that's fine. If not, let's just pass on. But, you know, that's a fine line there. Enlarged prostate and prostate cancer. Go ahead.
No, that's an excellent question, Mr. Boy, because actually, initially, the doctor had diagnosed me with potentially an enlarged prostate. And so I actually went, as I mentioned earlier, I was back and forth, you know, trying to figure out what was going on. And every time, that's what he said, you know, it was an enlarged prostate. So the symptoms actually can be very similar. The difference between, you know, the symptoms around an enlarged prostate and prostate cancer can almost be indistinguishable, right? And so it's extremely important that when you go to the doctor, especially if you're a Black man, right, because we are more susceptible to prostate cancer. So it's extremely important that if you go to the doctor and they're saying, oh, you have an enlarged prostate, we'll give you antibiotics, that you don't necessarily take that as gospel. That you might actually want to go further and actually say, you know what, I think, you know, thank you for your opinion, but can you just go ahead and do an additional test, right? Because, you know, I made that mistake. I believed the doctor when he told me that I had an enlarged prostate, but that actually wasn't the case. So to Mr. Bo, yes, the symptoms can be indistinguishable. They can be exactly the same. But I think for our demographic that is much more susceptible to prostate cancer, we shouldn't take that as an answer from doctors.
Black people, especially at the age of 50, you know, even before we should seek tests. Even in England here, just request your GP, especially when you're 50. If you are a Black person, they quickly organize a test for you. You know, I did the test, you know, before, you know, and you know, if there's anything, they further send you to check your blood and all those things, you know. But sometimes they put the fingers down there and see how enlarged your prostate is, you know. So don't refuse to go to GPs or doctors to check yourself, especially when you are a Black person. And the messages are there, you know, they're not, you know, all over the place. Sometimes I know we focus a lot on the walk. Any single small symptoms, we say, forget about this, you know, this is nothing and all those. But any little change in your system, you know, GPs are free in UK here. You know, my brother Suley Turesula says, very educated. This is a topic we as a community are not comfortable talking about. You know, and then Brother Boy says, in the US you get tested when you get 50. The same thing in the UK here. You know, but you know, now is it Dr. Will perform tests at 45, you know. So but you know, as a Black person, go and test yourself. If you are 50, you know, go and do, you know, breast cancer tests, you know, go and do cervical cancer, the spares and all those things. Don't just wait, you know, until you are, because cancer is a very, very challenging journey when you have it, and definitely to fight it is very, very possible. but it's not a smooth run. It's not a smooth journey, So I realized that I've had it for nearly 6 7 years,
Yes.
fighting and all those things. And hospital is not a hotel. Mariama said, sorry to us, how was your mental well-being during the process? I understand it will be frustrating. And yes, definitely, Mariama, you seem to read my mind here. I'm going to say, what is your reaction? When you were told you have cancer, and of course, you can join Mariama's question. Sorry to ask, how was your mental well-being during the process and all those things? Of course, you will need your family, your kids and my wives and all our friends and families stood, excessively fantastically well. We didn't hide, so we had a lot of advice, a lot of goodwill gesture from people, and that takes you somewhere else. So when you are hiding these things, that put a lot of pressure on you again. But when you come out and openly embrace these things, it's part of the journey, then you will see the benefit. Yes. So what was your reaction, the impacts on your family and all those things and their support? We need to acknowledge that, because no matter how brave you are, you have to have a supporting family around home and here. My sisters were in the Gambia praying and running all over the place. I appreciate that. So you have, a community of people that give you support. We have Gambian associations here. People will come, they will come with stuffs to my wife. They will come, some family will come and sleep and give them the boost, the confidence that they. So all these things are so important. Yeah, but your mental well-being, which is fantastic, and the mental well-being of the people, immediate people surrounding you. Go ahead,
No,
brother.
important question. This is a critical question because cancer is one of those things that until you've experienced it, it's extremely scary, right? When you're told that, hey, Mr. Janneh, Mr. Jow, we did a biopsy and it came out positive. It leads to a lot of reactions, but I'll talk about my journey because I believe there have been different stages of kind of like my mental well-being. So initially, I explained how I went through this period when I was having pains in various areas and irritation that I just couldn't understand. So I think that phase was a phase of confusion, perhaps frustration, in that I couldn't understand what was happening. I just couldn't come to terms with it. It's you're having all this pain. You need to take ibuprofen every night just to be able to sleep because of the discomfort that you're feeling. So it was a time of great confusion, great frustration, back and forth trips to the doctor, just trying to understand what was happening. And at the same time, I was scared because, I was hoping that it was just an infection, as the doctor said, right? An enlarged prostate. So when we got to that point, I was, going through those emotions. And then the next phase was when I actually got the PSA test was 4.4, and I actually had to go take a biopsy. And so the biopsy was painful because, they have to go in and actually take 16 samples, from your prostate. Very uncomfortable situation. And then, so there was that, and then the experience of actually going to the doctor and having him, take me to this room. I'll never forget. It was kind of a dark room, dimly lit. And he comes out with these papers and he tells me, Mr. Jow, I know you've had a tough year, and I'm sorry to add insult to injury, but you have been detected with prostate cancer. And, initially, I think just coming from kind of the Gambian culture that we come from, we can be very stoic. We can be kind of try to take, the, bad news as well as possible. So at that moment, I tried to put on a brave face, right? But internally, I was going through, it was scary, because, now you have cancer, what's going to be the outcome? Am I going to survive, So I was extremely worried, extremely scared. in that particular phase, right? So, there was a lot of worry and concern. And then the next phase was, okay, we know that you have prostate cancer. Now what we need to do is we need to do a PET scan. We just talked about a PET scan. So that was also another part of my journey where, you stay up at night and you're thinking, well, what if the PET scan finds that it has spread throughout my body, right? What if it's terminal? So there was that time of like uncertainty and being scared. And so when the PET scan results came, they said that they only found it in the pelvic area. It hadn't spread. So the next phase was surgery, either surgery or radiation. So I went through surgery. I chose surgery. And between the time that, waiting time for surgery, that was also, scary, uncertainty. What am I going to go through? All of that. And then after surgery was a tough process. They go in with robots. You have to have a catheter for about 10 days. There's a lot of pain. But that's when I kind of became more resilient. I think after I went through surgery, my level of resilience went up because I said, you know what, this is probably, one of the toughest phases. If I can get past this phase, then I know I can get past the whole thing. So in an interesting way, it was surgery that kind of helped me transition, my mental state transition from being worried and scared and uncertain to being kind of like more resolute, that I had gone through a very difficult phase and I could move forward, right? And so what I will say to Mariama is that the journey, it's a journey. It's not, you're going to go through different phases. You're going to go through being scared. You're going to go through looking at your children, your own kids, and feeling sad and saying, am I going to be around for these kids when they graduate high school, when they go to college, right? So there's a variety of emotions. Now, in terms of the support, my family really gathered around me. My extended family, my mother, everybody was extremely encouraging, as well as my friends who I've known many of them for many years. I was very open about it because one thing I realized was that you can't keep all of this to yourself and come out fine. There are just too many emotions going on. So one way to deal with the emotions is to actually reach out to people who you trust, people who are good people, and talk about the issue. And then what happens is you talk about your fears. And as friends, what they do is they actually help reassure you that things are going to be fine, because that's what they're there for, right? Your friends and your family are there to help reassure you, to help you get through the journey, right? So, much, appreciation to my family members, to my mother, to my friends. Without their support, I don't think I would have been able to traverse this journey of different emotions and different feelings.
Thank you so much, brother. This echoes to me also, and the emotions and experiences keep changing, and sometimes, I remember I have been in waiting list, they're going, taking biopsies and in the hospital for 2 weeks, because then they want to know whether this is, cancer or this is something else, and every day they will come up in the morning and I will be expecting worse, but I will be praying, let it be TB, not cancer and all those things anyway. So the emotions, the denial, the scary bit of it, the young families, everything comes to you, and our taboos on cancer comes and affects you also. You think, yes, this is cancer, is terminal. I'm done anyway, So before you gather all the courage again, I remember the day that they came, they said, we know, Mr. Janneh, they went through the niceties there, as always. But that professionalism of the doctors also assure you a lot. And tell me that this is cancer, but this is this type of cancer, this is the type of chemotherapy we're going to start with, and all those things. And tomorrow you will have your chemotherapy. So all these things, the fluctuation of emotions here and there, you go through one stage to the other. And this affects your kids, this affects anybody around you, so it affects you. So that's why it's so important, in terms of prostate cancer, go and test yourself. And then we will talk about the Gambia, whether we have all these tests that people can go and test themselves there, in the Gambia. But if you are in UK, especially when you are 45 upwards, just book an appointment with your GP. Tell the GP you are a black man, now you are 45, you are 50, you know that you are susceptible to prostate cancer, your race, you have to have a test, and they will do the test for you. I did the test, and every year I will request for it, and I will go through it. So Mariama says, totally understanding. You did amazing. Thank you for the awareness. Mr. Joe, can you please tell us what are some of the potential causes, generally or at individual level, of prostate cancer? And what do you think, they said cause yours, generally, but yours specifically, what do they suggest, might be these and all those things? Because I have theories, doctors will say you have this, that has been undermining your immune system, the strongyloides, what I didn't know, these are big terms, so probably you eat it or you drink it, somebody has been compromising your whole system. Opportunistic disease like lymphoma can easily go when your defense system is weakened and all those things. What do you think is the causes, and for prostate cancer?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because one thing I did is, and I'm sure you went through the same thing, is, when I was going through kind of like the initial diagnosis, I read a lot about it. I tried to understand as much about it as possible. And the answer is that they don't know. They don't have a specific reason why prostate cancer, what causes prostate cancer, what the root causes are, right? There's this theory that it has something to do with our diet, the red meat, right? The amount of red meat that we eat. I've actually read that. I'm not sure how, much that's based on science and scientific research, but that's one theory. What they do know, however, is that I think they pointed out, I think, 2 or 3 factors that they take into account. The first one is your race. And, I know we've talked about this quite a bit, is that as Black men, West African men in particular, men from the Caribbean and the United States, many of them who came from, West Africa or have West African, roots, that we are more susceptible to it. We are afflicted at a higher rate, and the outcomes are worse for us, right? So they know that. And there's a whole bunch of research going on right now just to try to understand why that's the case. The second factor is your genetics. I don't think they have as much data on us, but I think they have data on like certain like people from like genes from Eastern Europe, and I think it's called the BRCA. I think it's BRCA1 and BRCA2. Those genetic identifiers are supposedly more susceptible to various types of cancers, including prostate cancer. The third is the family history. And that is why it is so important that as Gambians, that we are talking about this and our families are aware. I actually found out that I think 2 or 3 members of my family, including my dad, had prostate cancer. 2 I'm sure of, because they're based in Europe and they went through the prostate cancer treatment. So those are kind of like the 3 big maybe not direct causes, but like relational causes that they can identify and say, okay, these 3 are like major factors, like that will tell us like how likely this person is to have prostate cancer. But then I've also heard about the diet, the red meat being a big factor in that. But again, that one I'm not sure how based on science it is, but yeah. So we're still learning a lot about it. My hope is that that this genetic testing that they're doing, that they go into some of these areas, these parts of the world, our part of the world, and get more data that allows them to actually come up with maybe like a genetic marker that identifies that someone is more susceptible to prostate cancer or not.
Brother Joe, I think the taboo surround about on sickness, especially anywhere around prostrate and erectile dysfunction, is covered. It's covered. They just put concrete on it. Your own dad will be sick in your own home. You will not know they have these, and a lot of them, they will tell you he has like urinary sickness and all those things. In Mandinka, they will say sumuna kurang olomati and all those things. But even that, they don't want anybody to know. And as you said, most of our uncles, I know a couple of our uncles, my uncles, that has erectile prostate cancer. Knowing what I know about the prostate cancer now, they had it. All the symptoms I had, from the grapevine of gossips or some of the small information that leaked out. Now putting things together, I know they had prostate cancer, and they end up dying because they get locked. They cannot urinate at some point,
Yes.
all the infections go back and attack their body. So I had those small gossips here and there that at some point he's locked. He couldn't go to urine and all those things. But that's what the prostate cancer is all about.
Yes.
If it is not tackled, if it is not, handled properly, it goes to another level, and that's some of those levels before those people die. But nobody want to discuss those things. So yes. So you can be comfortable and say, no, none of my family members had this before, but go and test yourself, because, really you will realize it's taboo and taboo and taboo. But most of the families, uncles or dads and all those had these, but they just keep quiet about it. So that's very, very important for us to reflect. Don't just be comfortable and say, no. Sometimes you have your dad, you're living with them, they have erectile dysfunction, and the family keep quiet with it. The mothers keep quiet with it and all those things. Everybody is keeping quiet with it. Life goes. Nobody talk about these things. Yeah. Nobody discuss this, and dad will not tell you about his erectile dysfunction and all those things that can lead to prostate cancer until they just easily pass away. And we just go and bury them, and we don't know the history of the sickness, what caused the death and all those things. So please don't be comfortable and say, none of my parents had this, none of my uncles had this. Just go and test yourself.
Yeah, and I think to your point, just given the advances that we've made in medical science, a lot of these, cancers and these diseases that were terminal, just 50 years ago, are no longer terminal. The treatments are so advanced that, if we are, if we come out and actually are more open about some of the challenges that we have, I think what we're doing is we'll be doing a service to the future generations. So our children, right? So now I can go and tell my son that, hey, when you're 40, get tested for this. Don't forget, because it's in the family, right? So what we're doing is we're actually helping the future generation, deal with some of these potential issues that could happen, as opposed to keeping quiet and then having, the future generation find out the hard way, right? Such as myself. So I definitely agree with what you're saying. We have to move beyond that. We have to rise above the taboo of being hiding sicknesses. There's no shame in being sick. It's not your fault. It could be your genetics, it could be something else, right? But there should be no shame, and we should, as a society, we should get to the point where we move beyond that.
Yeah, and you talk about the diet, which is so also important, because most of the time after your cancer, then you become very, very careful about what goes inside. Then I reflected. I said, if I'm this careful about what goes inside, I should have been careful. So those who don't have cancer, don't let until you have cancer before you change your diet. Because I realized, when I changed my diet, because, the people of the same cancer in the hospital here, they connect you to them. Mm-hmm. And you form, there's a WhatsApp group that we share, and most of the people will change their diets and the experience now and their former life. They compare and contrast it, and you can glean a lot from their discussions and the forums, and they talk to you. So if you will change your diet after you have cancer, I think it will be proper to change your diet before you have cancer. you know, and have a good diet when you are 40 something. The things that you used to do when you are 20, the sugars, the continuously drinking attire from dawn to dusk, you know, putting sugar there. You cannot do that when you are 45, when you are 40, when you are 50, when you are 60. You cannot continue that life. You know, when we have our teas, and sometimes one of my friends will put, how many sugar? I say, put 6 there. You know, so so you know, so those are things that you cannot keep doing. And the white rice, the reduction of heat, the grill, the barbecue on a daily basis, every weekend, you have to reduce those things, because when you are one of I had one of my somebody was closer to my bed and he has cancer and all those things, lymphoma. He said, you know what? Nobody brings you here chips and chickens and all those things. You see, anybody that's coming, they come with fruits and vegetables to you here in the hospital. He said, you know, so that should tell you something. He's an Indian guy. He said, you see, nobody brings you all the chips and chicken and chips here. Nobody. Since I've been here, all your friends coming, they come with fruits and all those things. So probably those are superior diets, you know. So you can take more of those. And your nice life, our Gambian foods are very, very nice. You know, to leave them is a challenge. But, you know, if you can change your life and become a little bit active, you know, generally for your general health, you know, it goes long way. But as I experience, I don't eat junk foods in the hospital. You know, and now I'm very, very mindful of my health, exercising, thinking, you know, what's going to come into my mind. And sometimes my kids will say, you're a vegan and all those things. But, you know, you don't want to go back to all the things that you experience. And if you can change, you know, post your cancer, why not before, you know, and you can change your diet, and probably you can prevent a lot of things, you know. But it is going to be a lifestyle change.
Absolutely.
You know, especially when you're not young anymore, you know, to build your defense and prevent diseases and all those things, and you feel good. I think I feel better today now, you know, with the change of diet than when I used to get tired and eating all those stuffs. But now I'm very, very careful. So diets, you know, we need to be a little bit careful about that.
Absolutely.
You know, according to WHO, we have about 0. That's 2020 though, and now these things are increasing. We know now it's increasing. You know, a lot of people are talking to me about their dads had, you know, prostate cancer and all those things. You know, we have the death rate of, you know, about 0.16. That's 16% of the total of our death rate is prostate cancer, and that's a lot. That's about nearly about 7 to 100,000. You know, that was 2024, and if you count that, that's a lot of death. And most of the time, the data's not, you know, people dying in provinces and all those things, you know, they cannot get those data. I know it's more than that, you know, way more than that. So, brother, what can you advise Gambian men about not only your experience, but you read around this subject, this topic, this cancer, you know, about prostate cancer? Sometimes some of them, this is, you know, this is white man sickness and all those things. But no, these are no white man. There's no white man sickness and black man sickness. So what's going to be your advice to Gambians generally, and black people and the world all over, because this is going to go all over the place, and it's going to be here for posterity anyway. Posterity, I mean, you know. Go ahead.
That's a superb topic. You know, like you, I think that 16% is an undercount, right? Because you know, I think a lot of people don't get tested, and then even in addition to that, sometimes the testing isn't up to standard, which means that people get misdiagnosed simply because we don't have enough facilities, right? We don't have enough equipment that would potentially diagnose people, you know, who have prostate cancer. So I agree. I think it's an undercount, but I think just the fact that it's 0.16 of all the deaths is actually quite alarming. And I think as a country, we need to do something about it. We need to have a health strategy around prostate cancer. So I think, you know, my advice to you know, and I'll kind of like break it up into 2 parts. I'll talk about the advice to Gambian men. What I will say is, do not be scared. it's a highly treatable disease as long as it is diagnosed early, right? It can be, sometimes just removing the prostate can actually, cure it completely. So what I would say is, do not be scared. Get tested. Get tested on a yearly basis, and then make sure that you're doing the right things around diet, watching out for the red meat, like you said, having a diet that is more vegetable based, lots of greens, exercise, go out and do physical exercise. So I think all of those things will help, eventually one way or the other. But I think getting tested is extremely important. However, to be able to, take the facilities have to be there to get tested, to be diagnosed the right way, right? So for the government of the Gambia, I think we definitely need a cancer strategy. You had mentioned something, I think, in our correspondences about Dr. Ramanjai.
Yeah.
We need a cancer strategy.
Yeah, he's pleading to the government to have a comprehensive cancer control plan, in the Gambia, because he knows he's in the midst of the explosion of cancer in that country. Yes.
So I think in that regard, maybe the private sector and the government need to come together and really, especially where it concerns something like prostate cancer, come up with a plan that allows for testing. So the PSA testing, that's extremely important. I think every Gambian should have access to PSA testing. And then the second thing is the equipment that will allow us to detect this better. Because one of the challenges that we have, my understanding, and I could be wrong, is that oftentimes when someone is diagnosed with prostate cancer in Gambia, you go ahead and you get your prostate removed. I think there's one doctor that does prostate removals. And then once that's done, you're let go. But there actually needs to be like active follow-ups. There needs to be constant PSA tests. And then even after you get the operation, you're supposed to use that PET scan machine to actually see if it's escaped the prostate, right? There's that, and there's also kind of like a pathology that you do on the prostate to see if it's escaped. But the point I'm making is that the government and the private sector need to work together on investing in the kind of equipment that will allow us to do more comprehensive understanding of where the disease is or where the cancer cells are, right? So I think, of course, now these are extremely complicated machinery that need people who really understand it really well to operate it, right? So I would recommend that not only do we go ahead and invest in some of this machinery, but we also invest in actually training people who can operate the machinery, because we have the brains, we have the intelligence, right? That's not a problem. Let's take Gambians who are showing potential and actually invest in them being able to operate this machinery, right? So that they can actually, detect, figure out where it's happened, because, it's one thing to have the operation, but the follow-up, and so on should also is also extremely important. There are also the radiation machines too, right? I'm sure you've seen those or maybe even experienced that. I went through that. Similar story, extremely advanced machinery that probably cost $1 million. But we should be able to come up with the money. I mean, this is an investment that is for the betterment of the country. So if we can invest in the machinery, if we can invest in the training to allow people to operate the machinery, we should absolutely do it. Especially given the fact that it's responsible for that high percentage of death rates, right? So I think my advice is in two areas. Obviously for us men, let's get tested. Let's learn as much as possible about it, and let's not have a taboo around this, because we're saving ourselves and we're saving the future generation. And then the second part is the government should come up with a comprehensive plan to handle this. And not only, it shouldn't only be, okay, you know, we're going to just buy the machinery, but also invest in the people that can operate this machinery and can interpret the results in the right way, right? So that would be my advice, right, in this regard.
I agree with you, brother. As I said, I spent 2.5 months in the Gambia when I initially had cancer. I didn't know. We went all over the place. Nobody had ever told me it's cancer, well, it's diabetes or whatever. Nothing. They cannot even get it. Yeah, we went to Serekunda Hospital. The scan, MRI scan that is there is 1600 MIR scan compared to what I experienced in the UK, because I've never used MIR scan before. I thought that's the standard one. That's a good one. Until when I came to UK, if I had experienced the UK one, I would run away from that machine in the
Yes.
Gambia. I'm telling you. So PET scan, I've never experienced. I don't think it's there. I had a friend whose wife had breast cancer, the mammogram for the breast test and all those. It was in Senegal, not in the Gambia. These machines, we can easily afford them because, we prioritize cars of 12 million for a car, but we don't want to buy a PET scan or a good MRI scan, for our health. And cancer is not only for poor people. Cancer is blind. It's just rolling over. It can hit anybody at any time. Different type of cancers now. And for small tests, we have to go to Senegal. Per my experience with my friend's wife and my own experience going through Gambia's health system for nearly 2 months when I had cancer. I didn't know I had cancer then, but even all the things that I do, there was the private sector, nothing is there. Even the MIR Sky, they will send you to Serekunda Hospital. So you ask yourself, should I even go to private sector, private hospitals in the first place? Because all their major tests has to go to in Banjul or in Serekunda. So and one of the private hospitals, somebody told me, I don't know what you have, but what I can feel, what I can see, it doesn't look good. If you can seek for international whatever, I told myself I have a British passport, then I have to go.
Absolutely.
So, because nobody seems to know anything here, even though you keep paying money and all those things. And at some point they were telling me, but the machines are not there, the expertise are there, but nobody is investing on these things. And the more life goes on, these diseases are increasing. They are going to increase, and we are going to live with them for the rest of our life. How we handle them, how we manage with them, that's where the best we can do is to come here and create awareness. But the government also has a role. Get those machines there. There's no PET scan in the Gambia. Go ahead, brother.
Indeed, brother, and you've touched on something extremely important. As we need to prioritize the health. If we're going to prioritize, cars and so on, let's invest in that machinery. Let's invest in that expertise, and let's not make it, let's have a strategy and plan around it, because I think those machines are like fundamental to any nation's health system. Like, if you want to have a good health system, you have to be able to do things like radiation and do it well. You have to be able to do things like these type of PET scans. That should be a pride of our medical system, in my view, right? And so I think I agree with you entirely. We need to prioritize those things above most other things, right? Health is critical, right? And if you recall, I think it was just the US has that advisory, and I think one of the things they pointed out was the Gambian health system. Well, let's prioritize that, and maybe we can start off by making sure that we have this machinery that is fundamental in detecting cancer, and that we have the expertise. And the other thing I wanted to add also is the medication, and we can talk about that a little bit. But the prostate cancer thrives on testosterone. And testosterone is something that men, produce. We produce it naturally. But what they've discovered in the advances they've made is that, if we can lower your testosterone, then the prostate cancer doesn't grow. And so for example, right now, I'm on a 2-year dose of testosterone lowering medication. Those medications should be available in Gambia too. Because if you combine early detection with that type of medication, and it's actually, you can take it a couple of different ways. You can take a shot that lasts 3 months, or you can take a daily pill. That type of medication has been proven to extend the lives of people who have prostate cancer by 10, 20 years, So we also need to make sure that those medications are available. Right now, I'm not sure they're available. So perhaps that's another area that the government should invest. But like you said, with a comprehensive plan that involves the expertise, involves the equipment, and involves the medication, I think we should be able to make some great strides in this regard.
Yeah, and of course the palliative care, they are not there at all, and that's part of the comprehensive, plan that government should have. People whose cancers are terminal, we need to give them a dignified ending, and take care of them than just sending them back to their people. I experienced somebody whose, their home is so inconducive for any sickness, moreover a terminal cancer. Their dignities are exposed. There are people taking care of them who don't know anything about palliative care. They are not nurses. They are not midwives. Serious things are happening. And brother, you touch one thing. This quick operation, because once you have prostate cancer, you pay 60,000 and somebody just operate you. They don't know where, they don't check whether it's spread all over the place, and I went through chemos, radiotherapies and all, because I did bone marrow transplant, the follow-up, the medications, all these things, come through. But just somebody has it, you say, because we contributed a lot of money for somebody to have the prostate cancer operation, 60,000. Go and get the money. Once you get the money, but before you get the money, no operation. So we put the money together. The day we had 60,000, the second day, the following day, he has his operation. Whether it's spread all over the place, and most of the time, those people end up dying.
Of course.
Cancer is much more complex than just to rush and do the operation and cut some bit and pieces here and say you are cured.
Yes. And as far as the operation is concerned, it's a very complex operation because of where it's located. So it can have like significant impacts even on your ability to urinate. Post-operation, they have to set up a catheter, they have to divert your urinary stream and all of that stuff. So it's actually very complex. And they've made advances right now where the surgery is actually robotic. They have something called an Einstein machine. And the Einstein machine goes in and actually goes in through five incisions, small incisions in your stomach. It used to be a lot more painful, but that machine has actually made it a lot easier. Those are the kind of things that perhaps we should invest in, as a country, just to make it easier, right? Because it's not a trivial operation, and it's it requires a lot of expertise, a lot of precision, and so on, right? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do as a country. Like to improve our health system to handle specific types of cancers, right?
Thank you so much, Brother Hughes, for your courage, for your time, for dignifying us once again, for your presence on Gunjur Online. The lessons that we learned from you. I'm a proud brother here, definitely, because, this is historic. And hopefully those who listen here, or those who are going to come and listen to these interviews, this talking, and this family session, I will call it, so that they can go with the message, and talk to their sons, talk to their brothers, talk to their husbands, about testing, about prostate cancer, about there's nothing same about these diseases, and so that we can create dialogue around these things and unmask the evil of sicknesses and illnesses and all these diseases. Then we will have the courage to come out, to talk to each other, to educate each other, so that we can prevent life. The next generation, there should not be any taboo on any disease, especially cancer. to the extent that we think, this is cancer. Nobody knows it. Nobody should know it. Dominant, Bualomu, or they are devils. They are there's no devil that will cause you prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is no wide disease and all those things. Let's confront them. Let's have the infrastructure. Let's have the environment. Let's create dialogue so that we can save life. Our people are dying way too early, and God doesn't design it like that. That is where our capacity is, and we have to regress and blame ourselves, not God, because God will not be fair if we can kill Gambians at the age of 30 and leave Americans to go 100 plus with prostate cancer. Somebody mentioned it there. That God is not worth worshipping. So this is nothing to do with God. This is our own selves, and we can put pressure on the system. We can put pressure ourselves and get out from the bubble of ignorance so that we can discuss things and let us not allow fear grip us to come out and pass our knowledge to other people and make life better, make the future better for our people. Hardly, I think with the last statistics I say, is only 4% or less of Gambian who are about nearly 70 years currently. Wow. About 4% or less. Yes, the last statistics that I checked is about only 4% or less of Gambians who are about 70 and all those things. But go to our Gunjur and all those things is empty of elders. You don't see anybody. 50, 55, 60, they died. So we can do better than this. So thank you so much for creating the dialogue, for creating the awareness. What will be your final word, brother, before I leave you?
Thank you.
2 minutes.
I will say that I'm just very proud and happy to be associated with what you brothers and sisters are doing with this platform. I think it's a worthy cause. And in fact, I like to joke that I'm also, I have a home in South Gambia in Batakunku. So I'm one of you when it comes to, where I live, right? I love that part of the country.
My wife, this Mariama and all those from Tujereng. So Batakungo is part of Tujereng. So yes. My wife is from Tujereng, and I have a lot of family connections there. So
yes, absolutely. So I love that area, and I think like I said, prostate cancer is one of the most well understood cancers. The treatment options are really good nowadays. Early detection is key. So I will say that for Gambian men who are, 40, 50, start getting tested. And for, the government and our health authorities, I think it's time to really start thinking about a plan. Thinking about a plan that handles this prostate cancer that is, affecting so many of us. The statistics are clear. So it's something that they need to focus on, and focus with, hopefully in collaboration with the private sector, to actually make sure that we have a comprehensive approach to this, because we can save lives, right? So that's extremely important. The other thing I will say is that I'm looking for partners. I will contribute in any way I can towards this situation, towards improving the prospects of Gambians, towards the education. So if you guys want to partner, I'm happy to partner and take this further. And if we have other outside stakeholders that could also contribute to this effort, I think that would be a fantastic thing, because I believe that as Gambians, we have an obligation to make our country better, than we found it. It doesn't mean that it has to be a huge contribution. It can be a small contribution, but I think we got to wake up every morning with the idea that we're going to try and contribute, even if it's a small contribution to our national development, right? And that's what drives me. And this condition has kind of maybe as they say, everything happens for a reason. It's a condition that has made me even more motivated to contribute to better outcomes for people who have the same contribution. So once again, thank you so much. I will say, I think this is a watershed moment for me. It's the first time that I've actually, come online and actually talked about it. I posted about it, but this is probably gonna spread wider. So, thank you for also, reaching out to me, Mr. Janneh, and actually suggesting that I come on your platform. It was a very thoughtful thing for you to do, and I appreciate it very much. And hopefully, we can continue to collaborate one way or the other. I'm always open to come to your platform, even if it's in another capacity, to talk and so on. So thanks again, and very much appreciated.
You're welcome, brother. We are very, very, very happy, and we will be happy to partner with you on anything. This platform is free and is a community platform, no charges, no nothing, no sponsors, no nothing. We just created and we are sponsoring ourselves to make sure we some of these things are, because most of the platforms, they sway from, some of these things, and these are important, because health is important, anything else has to be on top of your health. So we have an eagle eye that we can pinpoint some of the things that will benefit everybody, and they will not be that much toxic, in terms of, impact also will be less. But here, even if one person or one people goes with this knowledge that there's something like prostate cancer, because people don't even know, and that's really a big achievement. Thank you so much for your willingness. The moment we reach out to you with all your engagements and all the taboos around, you press the weather, and here you are. And this is fantastic program, really speaking, and we are very, very happy. Greetings to all our viewers wherever they are. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for sharing your thoughts, and thank you for sharing this program, and thank you also for getting this information and passing it and discussing with your sons, with your daughters, with your brothers, with your dads, and everybody else, so that we can create awareness and unmask the evil that these diseases are rendering on our people and defenseless people. We also want us to challenge ourselves and our communities and our leaders so that we can invest on health, because these diseases are going to come at some point. I think 1 in every 3 will have some kind of cancer in their life. That is how things are going for now. And wherever you are, these things are going to reach out to you. What is important, what will be a different is the environment that you are. I know I joke sometimes, but I'm very serious about it. If I lived in the Gambia with lymphoma, I would die by now, because I will not have bone marrow transplant in the Gambia, because we refuse to invest on those facilities. We defend people who are supposed to invest on our behalf when we got sick, and we will get sick at some point, and we defend them for selfish interest. But these are generic interest for everybody, so that we can have the equipments, we can have the awareness campaigns, we can have the meet the farmer stores, meet the people door, that can be on health basis, on cancer, on everything, just to create awareness for our people. These are some of the things places like Cuba did, and then now, we have doctors from Cuba and all those things. But the awareness that is there about people's health is at another level. So this is why we need to stand up and put pressure on our people, so that they can create the awareness, we can be free from ignorance, and also to create the environment, the equipments, the doctors, and all those things, so that people's life can be saved. People are dying needlessly in our country, deaths that can be preventable. What we see, yalala, alaleake, and all those things, as I always says, then we have to put the big question mark on that Allah, when people are dying of cancer, preventable diseases in one country, but the other country, and that's caused by God. I don't want to believe in those areas anyway. But thank you once again, Mr. Joe. Thank you and for your family to let you share your time with us. And thank you to our boss, Lamin Jame, who is behind the scene, technically taking care of this program. Thank you all, and happy Friday night for you, and enjoy your weekend. Thank you, and greetings to all of you.